Hey guys, welcome to Sketch Day. I'm Spencer, where every day I provide you with some new tutorial or information about how to draw and the things that I use. And today I'd like to sketch something really fun. This whole week's going to kind of have a theme here. And what I'd like to do is sketch a TIE fighter. And if you're living in a hole, you probably don't know what that is, but it's something from Star Wars. It's a little spaceship. So just going to take a practical approach at understanding the form and what it is, and go ahead and sketch that out. So the first thing I'm going to do here is, of course, sharpen my pencil, but I do need to kind of work out a frame for this TIE fighter. And so this box will kind of serve as my perspective layout for my TIE fighter. And the cool thing about starting with a box is it kind of frees you up, so you're not really worrying too much about the perspective as you draw. And we can do a few things to clean this up when we're done. Now, looking at a TIE fighter, I've got a little image here that I'm going to be looking at for reference. It looks like we have two opposing wings that are in the shape of large hexagons, okay? And those are going to be placed on these two planes. And in the middle of that, in fact, let's go ahead and just draw an X through here, like so. Through the middle of this, I have a circular or spherical cockpit. Okay. Now in The Force Awakens, the TIE fighter is a little bit different. It's a little bit beefier, meaner. So I'm going to go ahead and start sketching in some of the details where the body connects to the wing. And even though I'm not going to see this on this side, I like to draw through the whole thing anyways. On the sides here, just proportionally, okay, coming in from the sides, I'm then able to sketch my hexagonal wings. And that looks a little bit too drastic, so I'm going to modify that just a little bit as I sketch here. Same thing on the other side. I can extend this over, and I know this is where my halfway point is. And with a couple of those marks as well, I can draw and complete the rest of my wing here. Now I've got the border on the outside of this. A lot of this we can clean up with some quick marker work. Or at least that's my plan. So I'm not too worried about getting it perfect right off the bat here. The marker is going to take care of a lot of the detail as I sketch this in. So you'll notice that as I'm drawing, I'm kind of putting a nice light touch on the paper. And the reason for that is to make sure that I'm doing this light till I get it right. That's how I like to work. You know, figure out the details, really light, and then bring it in when we're ready. Okay, when we're ready, we can add the contrast and the punch to the sketch, essentially doing our final sketch. But for now, I like to keep things nice and light and fresh. And that way you don't have to stress too much about your drawing as you're drawing it, okay? Because if you go into your drawing thinking this is your final thing, it can be stressful. Granted, with experience, you won't need to do this as much. But since this is actually the first time I'm drawing one of these, and haven't done it before, I'm just gonna go light here till I get this right. Alright, so it looks like we have some sort of connecting piece here, and it is kind of segmented out. So just to capture some of those details, I'm gonna add a few tick marks, and then right through the center here we've got kind of our connection point to the TIE fighter. On the front of the TIE fighter, we have this really cool circular window, and on the top as well. So it's almost like I'm taking a knife and just cutting right through the front and the top. And then we have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 divisions on this front glass. So we have an octagon, which is easy. I just have to split this 4 ways first, and then split it again at the 45s, and now I have an octagon for my window, just like that. The TIE Fighter in The Force Awakens, it's a little bit different. Just looking at the concept imagery and reference here. Just to be clear, I'm actually not copying the perspective, just the design. But there is this little red section on the side. So that'll be pretty fun for us to color in here. We've got these little connection point armatures. I'm not gonna get all the detail in because it's a little bit complex here, but just simplifying a little bit. And thankfully, because of all this, because of the wing position here, I don't need to actually sketch in where this goes. But I do have that central reference point to let me know where things go. Okay, so now we have our under drawing. I can actually take some marker and go over this real quick. Now, I use Copic markers, most of you know, and if you haven't yet, be sure to enter our giveaway this week. Just find me on Instagram at sketchaday.com and look for one of 3 posts that are going to feature a set of Copic markers you can win. Just comment on the post and mention a friend in your comment. So, working again, light till I get it right, I'm going to start with a 30% gray and use the 30% gray to shade in these wedges, okay, that seem to be supporting these wings on the side. And I consider this more of a marker sketch, so the marker work, I'm trying to keep it nice and loose and fresh as I do this, okay. And outlining the shape just kind of helps me know where exactly I need to shade in. There's a little texture on these wings, so I'm actually going to cross shade as I shade this in, meaning change direction and then fade out like that. Now this is a 30% gray marker, but looking at it, I think I could have gone maybe a little bit lighter, but that's okay. We'll just make sure that we have the right contrast. Okay, now that I have that part done, I can jump to a darker marker and get frame and body, and it looks like they're about the same tone, but I don't want to go to my final darkness just yet. I need to make sure that I have a little bit of wiggle room, so I'm using a 50% gray marker to fill in the rest of the body, except for the red section. We gotta leave that out. So even though the final rendering will be darker than this, I want to make sure that I'm kind of doing the right thing here. And again, by just using this 50% gray to start, I can make sure that tonally I am rendering this in a way that's going to show the form. Okay, so I've got highlight, shadow core down here as well, because the form needs to read even though this thing is dark. Now, coloring with dark markers can be challenging because sometimes you feel like you're losing your sketch or your design underneath, but just remember you can always use a white pencil and some white pen to bring out those details when you're ready. All right, and we've got the rest of our main support piece. I'll recapture some of that detail using a pen as I move along here. All right, and I'm gonna shade in the window here with my 50% gray, and I'll use my 30% on part of this as well, just as I move toward the light source. Okay, so as I move to the top right, taking another marker here, my 30% gray, I can do some of these arms with that gray, which will give it a nice subtle shift in terms of the light that's in this scene. Now I did forget one detail. Looks like there's a little communication array on this side. So I'm just gonna block that in with my 50% gray marker here. All right, cool. So now I need to get this red section in, and I've got this nice juicy Copic red marker. So we can block this in like so. And I'm just gonna cheat a little bit and put a little red on that side, because I think it'll look cool. And I want to leave kind of a glossy highlight. I've got a 27 and a red 24 as well. So I can kind of blend these out to where there would be some kind of hot spot or highlight on that. And with the 29, I can get some variation as I move to the bottom of this red section through here, like so. All right, so jumping back to grays, I'm gonna pick a 70% gray now, and I'm gonna use this to then further darken the sketch in those areas that need to be darkened up a little bit more. And I've got a C8 marker here that I can use for that. So on the outside edge of this material, I want to communicate that there's some edge to this, all right? And there's going to be some shadowing on the insides of these. So just by adding this line, I'm now communicating that there is a surface change or shift. Pretty cool technique if you have just a couple markers and you want to show some difference in surface. So remember I mentioned these little notch details. I was able to kind of quickly capture and bring that out just with a little bit of light and dark marker work through there. Okay, so now you can see that with the dark marker, I'm starting to bring some depth and detail into this sketch here. And that's all with playing with contrast and emphasis using our gray markers. And the body of this thing's a little bit darker, so I'm just gonna push this with my dark marker here. Now you can see we're getting that contrast on this overall form. Toward the front of the drawing, I'm actually going to push the contrast or value on this spine. And I think that's going to help with the depthiness of the overall sketch. Just a hunch, but in reality, how we see things in terms of color, remember, in perspective, colors that are further away tend to be more muted and fade away. So this is just a little small application of atmospheric perspective on a small scale here, meaning this is closer than this, and it also gives you a sense of depth from right to left on the sketch. Now the inside the windows are black and dark, but let's say we had some stuff inside of this. One thing I like to do if I'm sketching a vehicle or airplane or ship or anything is just kind of hint at something being on the inside. And I can do that by, in these windows, leaving out certain gaps. So I might imagine this being the silhouette of someone, or here, well, maybe I'll leave these dark on the bottom since they're on the bottom. But as I move around to the side and toward the top, I can start to kind of leave out some stuff here and there and, you know, kind of fill that in. And as for what's left, I can then take a black marker to create a difference in value. And again, suggest that something is happening on the inside of this thing. Now, right now, the perimeter of this cockpit doesn't look very sharp. I'll show you. But I'm going to clean this all up with some black marker and black pen, and this will help our sketch feel a lot better. So I'm just using a Sharpie here. And line work is really amazing. If you have good line work on a drawing, it can really help with the readability of your sketch and create the overall impression of a certain level of fidelity in that sketch. So if you're really careful with your line work, you can start to bring a certain level of finish to your drawing that may or may not have been there before. Okay, so now this feels a lot tighter, and it'll get better once I switch to a smaller pen. I like to use these pens. They're called Papermate Flares. They come in this box, and they're pretty affordable. I like them because they don't actually cause my Copic markers to bleed. So if you're trying to apply a marker over your sketch, they're a good option for your line work in your sketch because they don't bleed. Alright, just a couple little mechanical lines, and on this little communication array, some black to add some depth. Okay, just like that. And on the outside of the sketch itself, I'm going to use this fat Sharpie just to clean things up a bit. At this point, if you wanted to, you could use something like a ruler or a circle template to help you clean things up, but I kind of like the challenge of not using a tool from time to time. I feel like it helps me keep fresh with my sketching. So what I'm doing here is just adding a couple feature lines to the sketch. Whenever I have something mechanical, even if the value is consistent and the same, like on these little support pieces for the wings, I like to add just some lines to show connections or where things are intersecting. And I feel like it adds just a little bit more of a depth level to the sketch and helps it feel loose. Now you might think, well, you just added all that nice Sharpie line work on the outside. Why are you messing up your sketch? Well, I think, and I don't have a scientific or empirical answer to that, but I think that containing the looseness on the inside of the tight sketches, or the tight lines rather, is okay because it's all contained. If I were doing both, it might feel a little bit awkward or off to have both a clean, well-executed set of lines and a looser set of lines in the same drawing. Alright, so same thing on this. I've got some details. I can't really see from the sketch what they are, so I'm just going to make up my own, which is totally fine. Unless you're a hardcore Star Wars fan and you're watching this and you're probably freaking out right now because I've done some weird stuff to the X-Wing, but it's okay. Sometimes to handle mechanical complexity in objects, I will kind of scribble in a certain spot. So like right here, just some scribbles that look like mechanical things without getting too caught up in the actual detail of that thing. And now what that does rather is it gives you just the general effect that you might be going for with the sketch. Alright, so now I feel like I need to make certain parts of the cockpit a little bit darker. now that I'm looking at this. So just a little Sharpie. I'm going to darken up some spots here. And also I'm going to take on the far side of these cockpit bars or frame, just darken it up so that there's a variation from left to right. If I want, I can use a pencil like this to help pull out any details that may be there. It's okay to mix materials and media to get the effect that you're after. Okay, a little bit more shadowing through this area. You know, maybe this is kind of shadowed as it's closer to the wing. It also saves me from working on any details there as well. So just a little cheat on my part. Alright, now for finishing touches, I'm going to add some white to capture details where necessary. So if there's a part line, for example, or on this cockpit frame, closer to the light source and toward the top, adding just a little bit of white to bring out the form some more. And on my wings, remember I added all this mechanical stuff. I'm just going to add a couple little spots here and there. And also wherever I think there would be a lip that potentially could catch some light. Okay, just like so. And right in here, I want to add a little bit more value on this arm that's closer to the cockpit, and also on the actual wing. And that's just to communicate some depth to this whole thing, right? Shadow, etc. Okay, well, there you have it. There's my process of sketching TIE Fighter from Star Wars, specifically the new cool TIE Fighter from Star Wars The Force Awakens with its cool red marker banding. I don't know what it means, but I guess we'll find out when we watch the movie in a couple weeks here. Thanks for watching. If you want to find me online, you can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/sketchaday. Just make sure when you do follow me that you click on the button that says liked and go to notifications, and then make sure all the options are picked. Facebook does some weird stuff where if you like a page, they kind of unselect that stuff for you and you don't really see updates. So if you want to see the stuff that I'm posting and you're on Facebook, just be sure to do that. If you're on Instagram, watch out for the giveaway this week, a set of Copic markers, full set of grays. And you can follow me there, or find me there rather, at sketchaday.com on Instagram. And if you're watching this on YouTube, thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe to my channel by clicking the big red subscribe button or the button below here in the corner. Little icon should be right about there. It says Sketchaday. You can click on that and click subscribe. And we'll see you guys next time right here on Sketchaday.